Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of In the Kitchen with Zesty Chef Z. I am your host, Zesty Chef Z. All right, so today we are going to make potato leek soup. But I need to cover this first. This is a leek. Oh, it's so delicious in flavor. But the only bad thing about leeks is it likes to harbor lots of dirt. If you ever had potato leek soup or something with leeks in it and you got a little crunch, that was dirt, okay? But I'm gonna show you a nice, easy method to clean this very efficiently, okay? Now there's lots of different things we can do with leeks, but first what we're gonna do is we're going to take off the outer edge, just like a normal onion. But as I'm peeling, if you take a look at all that dirt. Look at that dirt, okay? Okay, so we're just gonna peel that. I got a trash can right below there. I'm not dropping it on the floor, just for FYI, okay? So what I want to do is get a nice color on this thing, okay? Now, depending on the leek, okay, basically what you want to do is cut it to the point where you are starting to see dark green. So this one I'm going to probably cut right about here, okay? Now, I see a lot of green in here, even though this was kind of white. So we're going to trim that back just a little bit. Okay, because the green is a little bit more. Okay, just one more section right there. All right, that's a little acceptable because it's a very light green. If you start getting like darker greens like this, they're very chewy, okay? You really can't use this kind of leek for pretty much anything. I've used it before in some kind of decoration and so forth, but normally we do not use that, so. We could probably throw this in some stock, so we're going to do that. This we'll throw out. Okay, as you can tell, again, we're very, very dirty, so I'm going to clean up my board a little bit. Okay, wipe my knife down. Okay, now if you notice, we haven't washed this yet, and that's because I washed leeks afterwards. So what I'm going to do, this is the core, just like on a regular onion. So we're just going to top that off. Okay, just like so. Now, we're going to be making half moons for the soup. So just like an onion, this has layers, as you can see. Now, I normally cut, instead of going this way to get really tall moons, I'm gonna go with the longer look of the moons. So I'm gonna cut it this way. So I'm gonna take my knife, just hold it like that, and I'm gonna cut it long ways. Just like so, just right in half. Okay. Now, I could easily keep it like this, so if I was doing like a char-grilled vegetable dinner and wanted a nice little side of leek to go with it, I would keep it like this. Now what I would do to wash this is I would hold on to one end, open up all these layers and run it under some nice cold water. But look at all that dirt that's in there. Okay, you can see the dirt that's in there. So you gotta wash it really, really good. Then after that side's done, I do the same thing for that side. But since we're doing half moons, I'm gonna put them face down. Now I don't like that one because it's got a little bit of discoloration on there. So I'm gonna put that in the stockpile. So what I'm going to do, again, tuck my fingers, stay flexible with my knees. I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to rock the knife back and forth. Okay, my knife tip is not going to leave the cutting board. So, but I'm slicing, not chopping. So again, ladies and gentlemen, go nice and slow. So we're going to take it and slice. And we're going to rock that knife and just go slow. Backing my fingers up, keeping that nice tuck on there. Just like so. Okay, and the next one. Now this one I'm gonna go a little faster, just so because. Now as you know, a chef even slows up at the very end because it gets really close to the fingers. Okay. Now what I have here is a container of water, cold water. And what I'm going to do is take my leeks and just plop them right in here. Okay, what I'm going to do is just give it a little bath. Take them, make sure I separate all the little stuff in here. Okay, make sure I'm getting all that. And all the dirt's gonna dissolve and sink to the bottom because as you can tell, the leeks float. So by getting this nice and clean, we're gonna have a good soup. All right, so we're gonna let that sit and go there, and we're gonna move on to the next step of our potato leek soup. All right, welcome back. Now, we're in the process of making our potato leek soup. So I gathered up my mise en place. I have the leeks we just cut, our potatoes, our mirepoix, our chopped garlic, and seasoning, our flour, cream, chicken stock. Now I want this chicken stock to be cold, and I'll explain to you in a minute why. And then we also have our bay leaf. Now the bay leaf we broke in half. Now the bay leaves that we just recently got are incredible from Chef Source. So this actually, we had to break it in half because they were nice and big, which is fantastic. Okay. Now the first one that we're going to do is we're going to start cooking our soup. We are going to turn our flame on. Okay, so this. Okay. Now while that's heating up, what we're going to do is I want to talk to you guys a little bit about roux. Now roux is equal parts of a fat and flour. Usually the fat is butter. Now we use that for soups and sauces to thicken. And when we thicken with the butter flour roux mixture, it adds a lot of body, and it also adds flavor because of the butter that we're adding. And who doesn't like butter? Butter adds a good richness, a good feel in our mouth and stuff like that to give us a good flavor, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to heat the butter, we're going to saute our vegetables. Now, can we use other things besides butter? Yes, you can. You can even use bacon fat if you'd like. If you're making a nice clam chowder, you can use a little bit of butter and the bacon fat from the bacon. So there's just lots of different uses that we can use for roux. Now today we're going to be making a blonde roux, or a white roux, excuse me. So we're only going to cook it for about 1 minute, maybe 1.5 depending. But this is a very small batch of roux, so it doesn't have to get that long to be cooked. But what we're doing is we're cooking to get the flour taste out of it. Because if you ever eat raw flour, it's very disgusting. And then there's also a blonde roux, which we would use for other purposes. This would be that we cook it for a little bit, 2 minutes. It's going to get slightly blondish in color. And then if we are making like an Espanol or so forth, we'd be making a brown roux, which would be cooking for a couple minutes. Okay. So my pan is nice and hot. I'm going to add my butter. Technical difficulties. Okay, if it gets too hot, pull that butter off because it will burn very easily. Okay, so we're gonna put that back on the stove. Okay, melt that butter. As you can see, it's nice and bubbly. So we're gonna go ahead and add our onions. Now, if you guys hear that, you hear that sizzle. That's what we want. We want a sizzle. Add our carrots. Celery, leeks. Okay, we're going to sweat this off for about a minute to a minute and a half. Now, with our roux, like I was telling you about this, why the chicken stock is needs to be cold. Yeah, nice hat thing, very good. Okay, the reason why I need this chicken stock to be cold is because if your roux is hot, you need to add cold stock to it. The reason for that is because if you have hot roux, hot stock, you will get lumps. Now, if your roux is cold and your chicken stock is hot, that works out good too. So you could add cold roux to hot chicken stock, stir it up, and it will thicken with no lumps. But you do have to whisk it while you're doing it, okay? But the rule of thumb is if the roux is hot, your chicken stock needs to be cold. Okay, so as we're cooking, we're making a roux in the pan with our vegetables in it. So the roux is going to be hot, so we need to have our chicken stock cold. Okay. Okay, so we're going to keep cooking that. Okay. Got about another 30 seconds on it. We're just about there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add our flour. And we're going to stir that around, and it's going to take all that liquid from the butter and the vegetables, and we're making a small roux. Okay. Now you want to cook that for about a minute. Okay. Well, that little guy just wants to stay inside my whisk. Okay, so we're gonna cook. Okay. Now again, it's very super important to cook the flour taste out of your product. Now if you use a slurry, which is a starch and water, like a cornstarch or an arrowroot, you mix it with water, you still need to cook that out. As you can see, there's definitely a little bit of flour on the bottom and so forth, so we're doing really good. Okay, we're cooking that out. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my stock. So what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit right now, just add. That takes the flame away from there, and I'm just gonna go ahead and stir it. Make sure you scrape all the way down to the bottom with your whisk. You know, as you can tell, there's a little bit in there. So I wanna stir that up. All that goodness from the bottom of that pan from searing off your vegetables. Because this pan does hold flavors. As you can tell, the chicken stock already looks a little thick. So we're doing pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and add that, the rest of the stock. Okay. We're gonna stir that up. Just like so. And in the meantime, I'm going to add my spices. So I'm going to add my thyme, my bay leaf, and my garlic. I'm also going to add our potatoes. And we're basically going to simmer this for about 25 to 30 minutes just on low. So we're going to bring it up to a boil. And that's not going to take very long, so we're going to bring it up to a boil. And then we're going to cut it to a simmer. And then we're going to check the consistency, we're going to check the taste. And then we will be adding our cream as well. So we'll be right back. All right, our potato leek soup has been simmering and melting all that goodness. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look inside. Look how good that looks. Okay, we're going to pour our cream in. Okay, just like so. And we're just going to give it a good stir. Okay, now since we added cream, I like to bring this back up to a boil. Okay, so we're just going to turn the heat up just a bit. Just so it can come back to a boil. Okay, now while that's heating up, I'm just going to take some of my trusty salt and pepper mix and salt and pepper it. Now, if you guys feel that, hopefully you guys tasted the chicken stock before you added it to this. Then that way you don't need as much salt and pepper, because if you have good chicken flavor from the stock, you won't have to add as much seasoning to it. You may need a little bit more salt because you're adding the cream, which is unseasoned. But if your stock is fully seasoned, then you should be good to go. Okay. All right, so it's coming up to a boil. Okay. And everything looks pretty tasty. I'm sorry, did I say tasty? I meant zesty. Yeah, zesty. That's what I said. Zesty. Okay. So now we're going to stir that up. Okay. Now, my favorite job in the world is I get to taste this. To adjust the seasoning. Spot on. It's got good flavor. I can taste the thyme. I taste the stock. I taste the cream. I taste the sweetness of the leeks. Ah, oh, good job, chef. Way to be zesty. Making good food. Gotta love it. All right, so we don't have to add anything more. So we're good to serve. Okay. So we're gonna turn the heat off. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and keep that over here. Now, if you take a look in the pot, you can see the bay leaf. Okay, so you don't want to serve that. Eating a bay leaf in your soup is pretty bad. So we don't want to serve that. So we're just going to take that out, but I'm just going to serve this for right now. So we're just going to put that right into our bowl. Make sure we get lots of potatoes. Okay, just like so. And again, we got to make sure that we want to display it. Okay, just like so. Okay, now we can always cloud this up just a little bit more. Oop, I just made it a little dirtier. Okay, so we just want to fluff that, make it look pretty. Okay, all right. Okay guys, this is our potato leek soup. Okay, have fun with it. Make sure you cook that roux, the flour taste out of that roux. That's very important, but don't overcook it because we don't want to brown that roux because we want this to be a nice cream sauce, kind of. So make sure you guys have fun with this. Stay zesty to everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.